If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
We are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, filling in tonight for my good friend Khalid Muhammad from Command 11. He is still recovering from being stabbed in the lower abdomen during an attempt on his life. And in that vein, I'd like to just mention a couple of people quickly before we kick this thing off. Number one, my 81-year-old mother has been in the hospital for a couple of days with extreme pain due to an infection. She has Crohn's disease. It's been absolutely miserable. So if you don't mind, say a prayer for her. I'm got to check my list here. Our good friend Roger, one of the SDN OGs, had surgery today. I know some of you are wondering where he's been. He's been working through some serious health-related stuff, and we're praying that today's results are going to turn out good. We'll know when it comes back from the lab. I'd like to mention another one of our followers, Grant, who's dealing with some vision issues, and nobody can relate to that better than me. I lost the vision in my left eye in 1996, kept the eye until 2015, couldn't see anything. It was like looking through 10 sheets of wax paper with a floodlight shining in my eye. Eventually, my body rejected the donor cornea, and I had globe repair, lensectomy, iridectomy, vitrectomy, blah, blah, blah. So a couple years back, 3 years now, I guess, I started to lose my vision in my good eye, and it went just like that in the blink of an eye, and had to have robotic surgery to insert an intraocular lens to the side of my eye. So our friend Grant, who's one of our guardians, he's struggling with this right now, similar to what I had. But when you have ocular injury, your brain will do strange things either immediately or a long time afterwards to try and protect you. And it'll form a cataract to do that. So that's what's happened to Grant. So he's got surgery coming up soon on one eye, and then he'll need surgery on the other eye as well. It sounds like he's getting the same procedure I had done on this eye. So I think he's going to be okay, but it's very frustrating for him right now. He's having lots of issues. So prayer for my mother, Khalid, Roger, the OG, and Grant, if you don't mind. And since I'm filling in for Khalid tonight, I want to knock out a couple other things quickly here. I mentioned Wasatch. I better ask him how to pronounce this properly. Wasatch or Wasatch, I guess. Wagyu, either way. We'll just call it Wagyu. These guys sent us a bunch of their products. You can see like how much jerky's in here. I got to tell you, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the best jerky I've ever had. So you got regular sticks, but check this out. Let me get one of these guys here. So this is my favorite flavor. So they sent us some samples not too long ago, and I wiped them out in the blink of an eye. And this is like the most pliable, juiciest. It's the best jerky I've ever had. So if you go to Wasatch Wagyu, I'll put a link in the chat here in a second, and use code SD15, you get 15% off. We don't get affiliate income from them. They're friends of Mike Glover's. So here's the funny thing. This package arrived a couple days ago. I'm losing track of my days, maybe yesterday. And my wife's like, oh, look, they sent you some more jerky. I said, yeah. And I kind of grabbed it like this, and I said, don't touch it, sort of thing. She says to me, she says, you know, those are for snacks. That's not for meals, right? I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to buy into that or not. So I made a sandwich out of the dill pickle beef jerky yesterday. It was fantastic. So I think I've invented a new thing. Dill pickle, Wagyu, jerky, mustard sandwich. It was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. And I'll show you what their website looks like here. And like I said, I'm going to paste the link for y'all right away so that you can check it out. If you're into jerky, you like beef, I'm telling you, go here, use the code SD15, get 15% off, and I'll put that in the live chat as well for y'all. We're, as per usual, we're broadcasting to 9 different destinations. And so I get all of the chat aggregated in one spot, except for Rumble goes over there. So that's the first one. Let me move on to the second one here, because this is one hell of a deal. So we've done quite a few shootouts over the past few years on economy night vision stuff. And I'm not getting paid to do this host red ad, by the way. I did get paid a stipend previous to this. So Sigman, CIGMAN, NVGs, 25% off for Black Friday still in effect. So it works out to $179. They by far have the brightest RR illuminator. They have 2 times zoom in the glass, and the clarity of the pictures is second to none. The Acaso Seymour, which was the king of this category previously, does an amazing job with color, but the batteries don't last long, and it doesn't have zoom in the glass like Sigman does. So I'm going to post a link there, but it's an easy one to remember. Just go to sigman.com. Those are the CNV Pros. The coupon is right on the page that I'm linking to right now. And I mean, I'm hosting tonight and producing, and I see somebody said there's a troll somewhere. Who exactly is the, oh, here we go. Oh yeah. Okay. Got it. Poof, gone. See ya. All right. Anyway, and one last one to do, which is our friends over at Vets Tactical. Y'all have heard me mention them before. And this is a really cool product. So basically, this guy that's in the bottom here, and it's hard to see with the black on black. Let me switch to a different camera, see if it makes it a little bit better here. There you go. So this guy goes in your cup holder, comes with all kinds of different shims so that you can get a good compression fit. And this piece here, there's a magnet inside so that when you put a regular pistol in, note to commie tube, asshole AI, this is not a real gun, it's a plastic gun. It pulls it to one side, and it's just enough to keep it steady. If the cup holder is a distance away from you, they have one that has a 20-degree angle. It's a little easier to retrieve. If you go to vetstactical.com, use code SD10, get 10% off. I do not get an affiliate payment from them either. But here's the really cool thing. We are doing the first annual Vets Tactical Shootout on the Wednesday at 12 noon at SHOT Show in January. Keith Graves and I will both be there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're going to have a chance to go head-to-head with Keith. And Craig, the guy who owns Vets Tactical, has built this chair that has a spot on the side for the cup holder to go. It's called the cup holster, for the cup holster to go. And we're going to run the Mantis Titan X, which is this training pistol, and the Mantis app. So what will happen is the app will say, you know, shooter ready, beep, and you're going to pull it from the cup holster and then shoot to your right to a laser target. And everybody who's tested this from the TV show Surviving Man, which we're closely tied to, has improved by a minimum of 3 seconds. So that's life-saving differences in time. So anyway, a little bit of housekeeping to look after. Apologize for the slow start because of that, but it's all important stuff. And man, this, you know what I forgot to mention about this night vision is it has a really, really strong white light on it, which none of the other ones do. So it's got a flashlight essentially. Comes in handy. So let's do the conflicted question of the night first. So if you're not familiar with this, conflictedthegame.com. These are 14 card decks set in post-apocalyptic scenarios. The majority of the questions have some element of morality to them, hence the name Conflicted. I'm going to read this question off now. I'll give you my answer at the end of the broadcast. I'd love to see your answers in the live chat or the comment section down below. Sebastian came upon 2 orphans who were angry at the world and defenseless. He felt like it was his duty to take care of them. The young kids were having a hard time trusting him. If you were in Sebastian's place, would you take it upon yourself to take care of orphans? If so, how would you gain their trust? Well, I mean, that's easy, but we'll get to it at the end. So we're going to kick things off for tonight's SITREP, terrorism SITREP, with a quick check-in on our friends at the religionofpeace.com. I've been following this guy for well over 20 years. This website has not changed in well over 20 years. If you look at it, you can clearly tell it's out of the early 2000s. But aesthetics aside, this guy is on a mission to document radical Islamic jihadi attacks. So a couple numbers to share with you here. And this ticker's constantly updates. So let me zoom in here on this. So Islamic terrorists have carried out more than 48,563 deadly terror attacks since 9/11 1.0. That's not the number of people killed. That's the number of attacks. And he makes a note on his website that some instances, some attacks may never make it onto this because of, limited time, or it's not well documented. The vast majority of this stuff you will not find on the legacy media anywhere. But if you click on the side here, even though this says Jihad Report October 2025, it's not. This thing on the side, when you click list of attacks, is a rolling 30-day, basically, ticker of what's been going on. So here's your list of killings in the name of Islam in the last 30 days. This is part of the list of killings in the name of Islam maintained by the religionofpeace.com. Most of these incidents are terror attacks. A handful are honor killings or Sharia executions. So you ready for this? In the past 30 days, there have been 99 radical jihadi Islamic attacks in 18 different countries. 392 people have been killed. An additional 225 have been injured. And you'll see right there, TROP, which stands for Religion of Peace, does not catch all attacks. Not all attacks are immediately posted. If you look here, you'll see a lot of evidence that backs up what Khalid has been telling you all, where you have the Islamic Army now under one banner in Afghanistan. So that's Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS, ISKP, TTP, Boko Haram, all of them. All of the jihadis have teamed up together. And typically their MO is that they come up with a strategy or a tactic or something they want to test and accomplish, and they unleash it on Pakistan. Pakistan being a third world country, it's the neighbor. It's also not easy to get across the border because of the mountain ranges, and extremely steep and dangerous mountain ranges, by the way. So you'll see here under the country column, and it's probably a bit of an eye test for you if you're on a mobile device, but suffice it to say, so December 2nd, Pakistan, December 1st, Pakistan, November 30th, Pakistan, November 30th, Somalia. Somalia, as you may have caught, is a hot spot, and Donald Trump is fixing to go after them. And I'm not just talking in Minnesota. I mean, what's going on in the country of Somalia, which hasn't had a legitimate, functional government in many, many decades. But if you go down here and you look at these things, so 2 policemen are cut down by Islamic gunmen. You had a bunch of Chinese people, by the way, that were killed in Tajikistan by the TTP. The TTP is the Pakistani version of the Taliban. There's some interesting stuff in here, that we haven't seen in the past near as much what we're seeing this year. A female suicide bomber is among 6 others in a deadly attack on a security headquarters that was in Pakistan. And there was 1 killed in addition to her. But seeing female suicide bombers, yes, it's happened in the past, but it's getting more frequent. And it's part of the plot to obfuscate who these people are prior to striking out at us in 9/11 2.0. But check it out. This is a long list. This is just 30 days, man, out of the 48,000+. So the religion of peace, indeed. Right. All right. So the first actual news item besides the religion of peace: undergrad student accused of plotting attack on University of Delaware Police Department. 25-year-old man is accused of plotting an attack on the University of Delaware's police department. Lukman Khan, 25, was stopped after hours at Canby Park, and a search of his car uncovered weapons, armor, and a composition notebook detailing the alleged attack. Khan was arrested and turned over to the FBI for further charges and investigating. An undergrad student is accused of plotting an attack on the University of Delaware Police Department after officers found weapons, armor, and notebook containing premeditated assault plans and a diagram of the department during a traffic stop on Monday night. What we know: Khan, 25, was arrested just around midnight after investigators say he was confronted by police while sitting in a pickup truck in Canby Park after hours. Police say Khan refused to exit the vehicle and resisted arrest, leading officers to search the pickup and uncover the weapons, body armor, and other tactical equipment. Among the items recovered by the police during a search was a composition notebook that included notes on warfare techniques, premeditated assault plans, and a diagram of the University of Delaware Police Department. In the handwritten notebook, Khan discussed additional weapons and firearms, how they could be used in an attack, and how law enforcement detection could be avoided once an attack was carried out, the Department of Justice said in a release. Investigators say the notebook found in Khan's possession referenced a member of the University of Delaware's police department by name and included entry and exit points from the department building. Khan was taken to Newcastle County Police Headquarters, where he was charged with several felony weapons charges, including possession of a large capacity magazine and carrying a concealed weapon. So what are they saying? In a letter to the school community, interim president Laura Carlson said there are no known or immediate threats against the school. This is frightening to all of us, Carlson said. The university has made counseling available for students and faculty members who need it. What's next? Khan was arraigned on a $107,200 cash bail and turned over to the FBI for additional charges. The FBI's Baltimore Division Wilmington Resident Agency is leading the investigation. And if you look into it, this guy was essentially radicalized by the jihadis online. Khalid's mentioned this before, amongst other people. There are instances now of weak-minded people like this being radicalized inside of 3 weeks online and then set loose for lone wolf attacks. Next one up, this is pretty crazy. Apologize for the text overlapping. There's a bit of a rendering issue, but made in Britain. Actually, let me get this website up here. Hold on a second. There we go. All right, made in Britain. ISIS new leader, terror network's latest chief, preached in British mosques for years after being given sanctuary as a migrant in Sweden. The man believed to be the new leader of ISIS runs a global network of fighters from a Somalian mountain range after years of preaching extremism in British mosques. Abdul Qadir Mumin, the latest supreme commander of the Islamic State, known for his beguiling charisma and powerful ability to recruit, is on the run from forces in Somalia trying to hunt him down. When ISIS lost its self-declared caliphate in Syria and Iraq in 2009, the erosion of territory did not mean that the organization simply died out. Far from disappearing, new branches sprouted from the wreckage in other parts of the world, especially in Africa, where jihadists have been able to capitalize on political instability and fragile governance. From the remote Kal Mesged Mountains in Puntland, a semi-autonomous region in northeast Somalia, Mumin sought to revive the caliphate from the ruins. Nested deep in the secluded refuge in the arid Bari region, Mumin expanded his forces from 30 to approximately 1,200 fighters by the end of 2024 and elevated the fledgling branch to operational preeminence within the global ISIS network. It is the organization's financial center. ISIS Somalia is understood to have funded a number of global terror attacks, such as the 2 suicide bombings outside the Kabul airport in 2021, killing 169 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops. But before Mumin began rebuilding ISIS, he worked in British mosques for a decade, where security sources say he was part of a powerful recruiting network that was enlisting dozens of young Britons to travel to Somalia. And I've got some additional articles coming up out of Minnesota, Somalian, I hate to say it, capital of America. And the latest scam that Tim Walz is implicated in, or at least his administration's implicated in, is obscene amounts of money. We're talking in the billions going to Somalians and Somali terrorists, bad actors like this guy here. Personally, I look at this guy and I kind of laugh. He's got beguiling charisma, really. Okay, take your word for it. Regardless, dangerous dude, funded by our money once again, and absolutely part of the 9/11 2.0 plans against America, which that attack window, as Sarah has mentioned recently, has not changed. It opens mid-December. It'll run through to mid-February. It does not look like Pakistan did enough damage to the command and control in Kabul to delay 9/11 2.0. And if you're just joining us or you haven't been with us for very long, Survival Dispatch News, what that means is that if you look at Mumbai 2008, for example, that was kind of like the first really large CCTA, complex coordinated terrorist attack. So city of 18 million people brought to its knees for approximately 60 hours. 10 guys come in on a Zodiac. They've got bags full of weapons and light duty explosives. The first two, they go to a train station and kill 50 people inside of 2 minutes with full auto AK-47s. As these groups were moving across and hitting soft targets in Mumbai, they were being given direction by a command and control center in Afghanistan that was monitoring local news and monitoring social media. And the idea is that they would attack somewhere, wait for the first responders, then let off explosives to kill those first responders before moving on. 9/11 2.0, which is slated to hit 10 to 15 tier 2 cities in America simultaneously, a tier 2 city being population 100,000 to 500,000, will have 10 to 15 sleeper cells activated in each city. Each of those sleeper cells will have somewhere between 4 and 12 jihadis in them, capable of doing a massive amount of damage, obviously. But going back to Kabul and Afghanistan and command and control, imagine something like Johnson Space Center on steroids, where you have dozens of cells essentially attacking soft targets simultaneously across America, across multiple cities. It will take a fairly significant command and control structure to be able to direct those guys. Just a quick tidbit, we've got some recent intel a couple of weeks ago showing that they've messed with fentanyl and mixing other drugs with it to essentially, one, make the jihadis immune to pain, and also wiring them so that they can stay up for upwards of 48 hours. And again, 60-hour siege in Mumbai, where it all ended at the Taj Hotel. And if you watch the movie Hotel Mumbai, it's a great rendition of what really went down. That's what a CCTA is. But again, imagine that multiplied many, many times. But in 60 hours, they killed hundreds of people, maimed hundreds of people. And their goal here is going to be to take the tier 1 trauma center in those tier 2 cities, because the tier 2 cities typically only have one tier 1 trauma center. It does a bunch of things, right? It takes away the ability to treat citizens and first responders who've been grievously injured, which means that people will be triaged. There may not be enough care. Well, there won't be enough care for those people. But the other thing that it does is it gives those sleeper cells, who will all come back together again at the hospital, they will have a headquarters to broadcast heinous videos of decapitating, torturing, killing Americans that will go on until Delta Team shows up and unsieges these buildings. We have 4 FBI HRT teams, hostage rescue teams. None of them are trained to unsiege buildings with thousands of hostages. Typical tier 1 trauma center could be anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people in those hospitals, including staff and patients. We have a ton of solid intelligence showing that they will be armed with sarin nerve gas canisters. Sarin doesn't work great outdoors. It dissipates fairly quickly, but indoors, when placed inside of HVAC ducts, for example, extremely deadly. And even if you had a gas mask on, 3 minutes of exposure to sarin nerve gas, will go subcutaneous. It'll go through your skin and it'll go through your eye membranes, and you're dead in 3 minutes. And the way it works is that your brain is telling your right hand to move and your left foot's moving. Eventually, when you reach the end, your brain is saying to your heart, pump blood, and your lungs to breathe, but your body's doing something else and you essentially expire. So while those hospitals are under siege, that's when we're going to see all these horrible videos. The cops aren't trained for this. SWAT teams aren't trained for this. The FBI is not trained for this. The only guys that we have that are capable of unsieging these things is Delta Team. And Delta Team do one thing, right? They go in and kill all the bad guys. And then outside of these facilities, they'll be supported by the Army Rangers. And for those of you not aware, doesn't matter what the site is globally. When Delta team shows up, they assume tactical and operational control of the entire situation. A problem being is that to get sufficient Delta teams together, get them the right intelligence, and get them to 10 to 15 cities, this is not going to be something that wraps up in the blink of an eye. It's going to be an issue, a big issue, and it will forever change America. And while we're on this topic, just because this is a common thread to our long war series, which will resume tomorrow night, Al Qaeda, their piece of this, and they're all about the big show. Hamza bin Laden is all about the big show. By the way, there's a video going around that somebody named Guido is claiming is current video of Hamza bin Laden. It is not current video. It's 7 years old. So don't believe that. He is alive. We have multiple intel agencies who verified that, but he is, that video is absolutely fake. However, he wants extreme retribution for what we did during the war on terror, as well as killing his father. So his father, Osama bin Laden, the mid-1990s, came up with this attack plan called the Bojangka. And the idea is that jihadis would get on a plane in Germany. They would plant explosives on the plane under the seat on their way to London. They would get off in London. The plane would carry on to the United States and explode somewhere in the air over a major center like New York City. So for 9/11 2.0, as far as the airline component is concerned, there's a couple different aspects. Number one, high probability that we will see European planes that have been essentially hijacked and set to go off with these plastic/liquid bombs. So the liquid is something the dogs don't alert on. You can't detect these plastic invisible suicide vests by normal technology. You need what's called a millimeter wave scanner to do it. We have them in 3% of our airports. So you'll likely have planes coming in from Europe exploding over American cities. But when the sleeper cells start attacking soft targets simultaneously, and people are always asking, what's the timeline look like? Statistically speaking, it'll happen on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. It'll start at 09:30 on the East Coast and 08:30 Central Time, and won't lag much more than maybe an hour behind that for Mountain and Pacific time. Not enough time, obviously, for people to mobilize and prepare for the hell on earth that they're going to bring. But Al Qaeda will go to the airports after, or they'll be at the airports, I should say. And after the jihadis start hitting these soft targets, they will hijack planes. They will fly the planes themselves over American cities, and they will detonate them. Now, I got a really detailed email from a guy who's been a pilot, commercial pilot, for many years. And he said, well, we have all of these things in place that will preclude that from happening. And one of them, he said, there's not going to be anybody to push the planes away from the jetway, and multiple other things that I don't want to mention, because if you're not in that industry and you're not in the intel world, I guess you don't really need to know them. We don't need to broadcast it, but suffice it to say, every airport in America has been infiltrated by jihadis, every last one of them. We had, maybe 3 months ago, there were 2 ISIS guys arrested at the Miami airport, and they've been working there for quite some time, and they were part of this scheme. The other part to it is, just so y'all understand this, because there's a method to their madness. The Al Qaeda characters who will hijack planes are going to go through the TSA checkpoints. Could they leverage their people on the inside to get through? Absolutely, but they don't want to do that. The reason they don't want to do it is because when we're putting the scene together after the fact, they want everybody to know that they went through the TSA checkpoint and they were not flagged for having these invisible suicide vests on. So here's what happens. You got planes in Europe that the jihadis are on with these invisible suicide vests that have gone through security in Europe. You have the same thing here, where you have jihadis who've gone through the TSA checkpoints, hijacked planes, taken them up in the air, low altitude over a city. They set off their vest. The plane comes apart. You've got body parts, luggage, plane parts dropping on heavily populated areas. And the reason for that is the airline industry will be done for a very extended period of time. When I say done, they will not be allowed to put any planes in the air, because until we can guarantee that we can catch these invisible suicide vests at our security checkpoints inside of airports as well as the rest of the world. No planes will be allowed to fly. Now, think of what that does from an economic perspective, right? They want to cause extreme death, extreme fear. They're specifically seeking out GWOT vets. I get an insane amount of email, 300 to 500 legit emails per day. I've been getting a lot of emails from active duty military, retired military. I got one from a SEAL and his wife a couple days ago, and they're greatly concerned of the retribution piece. And God have mercy on them. But if you're anywhere near somewhere that has a high concentration of GWOT vets, there's a high probability that you're going to see attacks in that area. And if they aren't part of the initial attack of 9/11 2.0, they will be in the follow-on attacks. And for all the people who say, "Oh, this is all bullshit," blah 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 blah. I actually 3 weeks ago tonight, I was face to face with General Flynn at Mar-a-Lago, and his assistant, who I've worked with for a couple of years, Melissa, she said to General Flynn, she said, "This is Chris Heaven, the guy with the 9/11 2.0 podcast." And he looked right at me. He said, "Chris, I was the head of the DIA, right? Defense Intelligence Agency." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "We have got credible intel that within the next 90 days, we're going to be attacked." And he started rhyming off all of the stuff that we've been sharing for months and that I just rhymed off for y'all. And it was a virtual carbon copy. So we're now inside the 70-day window, maybe, 65 to 70 days max. Could happen sooner, could happen later, but that's the time frame, mid-December to mid-February. But number one, his is the same. Number two, there are multiple people in this world who've had very credible death threats, including me. And it's escalated to quite a level here with me now, where we've got at least 4 instances of people casing our property because we're over the target, and they've issued death threats against me. They've done it to Sarah. They did it to Khalid multiple times. He got stabbed in the last altercation when they stormed one of his safe houses. They found 3 of his 4 safe houses a few weeks ago, and there's probably somebody on the inside at the ISI, the Pakistani intelligence group. But there are other people who've had it worse than me. Data Republican, for example, she's been threatened multiple times. Elon Musk paid to relocate her with nothing in her name. Sarah moved 3 times. And the first 2 times, they were still able to track her down and tell her that they were going to decapitate her and make a show of it. So if all of this was BS, there would be no death threats. There would be nobody trying to kill us. There would be no statements from General Flynn saying we have hard evidence. He got up after he spoke to me and stood in front of a crowd of approximately 600 people in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago and repeated all the stuff that I just said to you. He wouldn't do that if he didn't have the evidence of it. All of the things are lining up. And at the end of the day, when people tell me it's BS, I tell them, well, tell you what, if you think that our southern border, which was left wide open for 4 years and tens of millions of people were let into our country without being vetted, that none of them are jihadis, that hate our guts, and that want to exact extreme retribution on us, GWOT vets. Now, I'm not a GWOT vet, by the way. I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona for you. So that's why Khalid and I put together this 144 episode series, The Long War. Again, tomorrow night will be episode number 65. Tonight's just a sit rep of stuff that's going on. So this next one, if this stuff here doesn't bother you, man, I'll tell you what. So there's Jolani right there waving. This is one of the original executives in Al-Qaeda. He's also the guy who initially broke ISIS off from Al-Qaeda. He's now the leader of Syria. Tom Barak, our ambassador to the Middle East, has been kissing this guy's ass unbelievably. He's been to ground zero for 9/11 1.0. He's addressed the UN in New York. He's been in the White House, the Oval Office with Donald Trump. He's managed to pull the wool over Sebastian Gorka's face. This guy is smiling to our face while stabbing us in the back. I cannot believe this. Up until approximately 10, 11 months ago, he was on one of the most wanted lists for terrorism around the world. He was involved in 9/11 1.0. He was involved in multiple American deaths. and meaning soldiers and otherwise in the Middle East. So, he washed his hair, he trimmed his beard, he threw his Muslim dress away and put on a suit, and we're supposed to think he's a good guy. This is brutal. So now we're running ops with him in Syria against ISIS sites. There's no way to describe the insanity of all this stuff that's happening. I'm not even going to read this article because for sure my watch is going to go off, my blood pressure is going to go through the roof. So here's a recent post from Sarah just a couple of days ago. Terrorists have long recruited in universities. That's why they have so many solid engineers. So Saeed Ahmed, a holder of a master's degree from the International Islamic University Islamabad and an affiliate of the BYC, was transporting weapons. Another, I don't know what you want to call it, support personnel, for lack of a better term, in these terrorist networks. It's universities, colleges around the world are absolute hotbeds of communism, Marxism, anti-Americanism, jihadi recruiting, you name it. It's not just the people who have, limited mental capacity that buy into all this crap. There's plenty of people like this guy here who get involved, even though they're supposed to be fairly intelligent. So let's move on to the next one. This is pretty crazy if y'all haven't seen this. So breaking, Jake Lang just went undercover into a Muslim Brotherhood in Tampa and was thrown out by the Muslims. I met Jake at SHOT Show last year and had dinner with him, by the way. And let me pause this because I'm going to play this 45-second video in just a second. So Christians aren't welcome here in Tampa, Florida. Did I make a disturbance? Muslim? No. I've been kicked out. I've been identified and kicked out. This man over here said I'm not welcome. Islam has no place in Florida, Texas, Michigan, Minnesota, or anywhere in the USA. I'll tell you right now, there's zero recorded instances in history of two diametrically opposed cultures peacefully coexisting in the same geographical location. We are going to have to eliminate this one way or another. And I'll leave it at that so I don't get banned from any of these platforms again. 45-second video.
Tampa Bay Islam event. Going undercover. Pray for me. So I made myself inside here. And
I noticed a comment, by the way, somebody asking if this was the guy in Dearborn. Yes, that is correct.
No, it's all right. Not welcome, right? Huh? Christians aren't welcome here. In Tampa, Florida.
Were you
United States Senate candidate here in Tampa.
I have photos of you sitting inside and a video of you sitting inside.
Yeah, did I make a disturbance?
No.
But I'm not welcome back here.
But why are you doing this then?
No, because I've been kicked out. I've been identified and kicked out.
Who kicked out?
He said I'm not welcome. This man over here said I'm not welcome. I didn't agitate. I sat there to listen to a message.
Yeah, and you learned.
So absolutely insane. We now have, no-go zones here in America, which people are starting to realize is not a big secret. That particular mosque and group of Muslims have been very, very vocal in their support for causing tremendous damage to America and Americans. And they actually have a big conference of sorts coming up soon that will be packed to the gills full of foreign radicals, encouraging radicals that are here in America to do harm to all of us. This is going to escalate very quickly to kinetic warfare on our homeland here. And the point we're trying to make to everybody, by the way, of doing all of this is that if you remember nothing else from our podcast, please remember this one thing. If you are caught anywhere near the X when 9/11 2.0 kicks off, we have this thing called normalcy bias, where your brain wants things to get back to normal as fast as possible. You need to get as far away as fast as you can. There have been a massive number of police uniforms, paramedic uniforms, and National Guard uniforms stolen in the past 18 months. It's a typical MO for these guys to pose as first responders. They did it on 10/7 in Israel. They posed as Israeli cops. They stopped people who were trying to exfil in their cars, and they slaughtered them. It'll happen here as well. So don't trust anybody. Don't trust anybody in a uniform. If you're mobile, get as far away as fast as you can, because Number one, the posers, the fake first responders, will kill you. Number two, when the real first responders arrive, the bad guys are going to let off the secondary and tertiary attacks. So vehicle-borne IEDs, those sort of things. The killing will be worse in the secondary and tertiary attacks than the first attack. You got to get away as fast as you possibly can. So no surprise here. The AP is helping the Afghan terrorist that murdered a guardsman with his defense. The outlet claims he wasn't mentally well. They cite a 2024 email that allegedly says he has not been functional as a person, father, and provider since March of last year, which was March 2023. He quit his job that month and his behavior has changed greatly. And this was in a report from 2024 that was emailed. Suspect in National Guard attack struggled with dark isolation as community raised concerns. I don't think anybody who's a real American, TM Randy Nance, gives a shit what this guy was going through. This guy needs the death penalty, and anybody else who was in bed with him deserves the death penalty as well. Next one up from Sarah Adams. More Western money going to fund terrorism against us. Sweden also funded terrorists, including providing welfare to at least 3 of our 2012 Benghazi attackers. If you live off government assistance, you get to be a terrorist full-time, win-win for them. So Sweden's gangsters on payroll, taxpayer cash fuels crime. Sweden just found out it's been direct depositing millions into the pockets of gang members, approximately 4,000 of them. So I want to just quick segue here because she mentioned Benghazi in that post. So Ty Woods had an F-150 that he sold to a guy when he was going to Libya, and he'd had it for many, many years. The guy who bought the F-150 from Ty Woods got in a wreck, and the truck got T-boned, and the insurance company wrote it off. That guy in turn reached out to Mike Glover and said, hey, I've got Ty Woods' truck, and the insurance company has written it off because I got T-boned. Just thought you might be interested in picking it up and doing something with it as far as a tribute to Ty Woods and the rest of our heroes who died that brutal night in Benghazi. So Mike bought it from the insurance company, and then our friends from Carnival came along and took the truck to a very high-end body shop. I mean, they spent over $20,000 restoring this truck as a tribute to Ty Woods. And you're going to hear a lot more about that, and you're going to see it. And the idea that Mike Glover and the guys from Carnival had is that they will take this truck to various events as a tribute to Ty. And basically, Ty will continue to go on great adventures with these guys, but bring visibility. And the reason that it's important for visibility, most youngins today, they have no idea what happened in Benghazi. They have no idea how crooked our government was. Our government's always crooked, but especially crooked at that time with Hillary and Obama, at the reins. So pretty cool stuff to honor Ty Woods and Benghazi. And like I say, just stay tuned and we'll have more information on that soon. Next one up, let me get over to the other screen again. Here we go. Treasury investigating whether Minnesota welfare money went to Somalia terror group Al-Shabaab, Bessent says. And this is December 1st, so just yesterday. The Trump administration is looking into whether Minnesota tax money found its way to Al-Shabaab, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization and Al-Qaeda affiliate based in Somalia, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Monday. I'm pretty sure that it's a pretty safe bet that not only did a big chunk of that money go there, but there's billions missing, and we have financed them to the tune of many, many billions again. Tim Walz is an incompetent, I don't know what you want to call him. He's just an incompetent fool. And stolen valor person as well, which is bullshit. But either way, I don't personally believe that this investigation would be launched unless there was some kernel of evidence that basically says, yeah, we were giving it to the bad guys. Now, by the way, the Al-Shabaab terrorist group are part of the new IA, which is the Islamic Army, which I mentioned earlier, which is all of the bad guys coming together. All right, next one up. Here's a UN report shows increasing collaboration of Houthis and Al-Shabaab. A United Nations expert panel has released a report showing that Yemen's Houthi rebels and Al-Shabaab terrorists have exchanged intelligence, trafficked weapons, and cooperated on military operations. The October 17th, 2025 Security Council report from the panel of experts on Yemen notes that cooperation between Yemen-based Houthi rebels and Somalia's Al-Shabaab has intensified. The cooperation with Al-Shabaab is not simply for transactional benefits. It is also part of the Houthi strategy to wield increasing influence in the region, the report states. So the Houthis, I'm sure y'all have heard of them in Yemen, have been trained and financed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, IRGC. And these are some pretty bad dudes, but I want to say it was approximately 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, that we said, hey, all of these guys have come under one banner now called the Islamic Army. And people came out of the woodwork. Oh, you guys are full of shit. You know, these terrorist groups aren't cooperating. And now it's clear as day for everybody to see, you know, the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine. And they're all collaborating and working together to do as much damage to us as they possibly can. Next one comes out of Kanukistan to the north of us here. Calgary man guilty of terrorism offenses for fighting with ISIS in Syria. A Calgary man who traveled to Syria with his cousin more than 12 years ago has been found guilty of terrorism offenses after a judge ruled that the evidence shows he was fighting for ISIS. Jamal Tan Borhat, 35, was convicted of 3 terrorism-related offenses after spending 11 months in Syria between May 2013 and April 2014. 8 of his family members were in court on Monday to hear Court of King's Bench Justice Carino Daria's decision. After the verdict, Dario revoked Borhat's bail and sheriffs took him into custody. A sentencing hearing will take place at a later date. Both Jamal and his cousin Hussein Borhat were charged by RCMP in 2020, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. In 2022, Hussein pleaded guilty to similar offenses and was handed a 12-year sentence. Jamal's case encountered several delays, including changes in defense counsel and federal court proceedings. Those proceedings, which dealt with issues of whether potentially sensitive disclosure could be provided to Borhat and his lawyer, had to be concluded before the trial could begin. Last year, Dario rejected a defense application to have the charges stayed due to delays in the case. Intercepted calls in reaching her verdict, Dario relied on travel documents, Facebook messages sent by Jamal, and intercepted phone calls he had with family members and a friend. During the trial, prosecutors Kent Brown and Dominic Pujla presented evidence that showed Borhat trained with and fought for ISIS, took on a role as a commander for the group, created videos for the benefit of ISIS, and attempted to recruit others to join. After his return to Canada, Borhat gave statements to police denying having ever traveled to Syria. In 2020, police intercepted communications between Borhat and his mother, his cousin, and another man. In some of those conversations, Borhat discussed his time in Syria, comments filled with hatred. The Crown also relied on Facebook messages Borhat sent to 3 men, which prosecutors say promoted ISIS in an attempt to get the men to join him in fighting in Syria. Dario noted Borhat made comments filled with hatred toward non-Muslims and about killing those who did not convert to Islam. Not only did Borhat hold terrorist beliefs, said Dario, he was prepared to both kill and die for those beliefs. Defense lawyer Paul Mikkelzarek argued the Crown failed to prove its case. Mikkelzarek submitted that the Crown had not proven which group, if any, Borhat had joined, and argued it is reasonably possible that the Facebook messages and intercepted phone calls made by Borhat were a fabrication created to gain status within his community of peers and family. Bullshit. That one's not going to hold any water. So one more jihadi off the streets. So let's talk a little bit about the Venezuela connection here. And we've touched on this quite a bit. The Venezuela has been in bed with the Iranians, obviously the Russians and Chinese as well for quite some time. It's been a hotbed for terrorist activity. Hezbollah started coming into Latin America in the early 1990s. We have all kinds of firsthand accounts. Jeff MD was active duty CIA at the time. Don Mann was active duty CIA. Prior to that, he was a Navy SEAL. Both good friends of mine. And Don was on our podcast 3 years ago and said in the early 1990s, we were tracking 300 Hezbollah sleeper cells in America at the time. That number has absolutely exploded. But Hezbollah, there are two parts to it for those of you new to our podcast. So Hezbollah in the Middle East is funded by the IRGC. Hezbollah outside of the Middle East is referred to as Unit 910. And before some asshole sends me hate mail saying a global team wouldn't be called a unit, yeah, they're called Unit 910. Go ahead and look it up. And that covers their entire global presence. Unit 910 is tasked with financing itself. So they went straight to Mexico and Latin America, partnered up with cartels and gangs, TDA, MS-13, Sinaloa cartel, etc., and started exchanging information on things like IEDs and other terrorist TTPs. Then they got involved in the fentanyl stuff. So China sends the precursors for fentanyl to Mexico and Central America. And it's a very rudimentary process they use to turn it into one of the analogs of fentanyl. There are 1,400 analogs for fentanyl. We have signatures on approximately 200. We have pharmaceutical grade fentanyl coming in from the north, by the way, out of Canada, where the Chinese, the CCP, have actually set up very sophisticated labs. But in Mexico, this relationship's been going on so long that the jihadis look like their Mexican counterparts. They speak with the same accent as their Mexican counterparts. They are virtually indistinguishable. When my good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers, former Green Beret, served for 40 years, trauma flight surgeon, currently running for the governor of Texas, I spoke to him on a Sunday night, and he said, hey, man, just got off the phone with Donald Trump's security. This was last summer. He said, you won't believe this. We just got really credible intel of man pads being brought across the southern border to take out Donald Trump. So what's a man pad? It's approximately 1.5 pounds heat-seeking shoulder-mounted missile. And the idea is that you take out 2 engines on a jetliner, right? If you take one out, it's probably not going to crash. You got to take 2 out. These are relatively short range. So you're looking to take out jet engines at low altitude, plane crashes, goes boom, kills everybody on board. What's crazy about it is that those pictures that showed the 9 man pads, which were our man pads, by the way, that were left behind in Afghanistan, there were 2 known Hezbollah guys in the picture, 2 known Sinaloa cartel members in the picture, and then there were 2 other individuals that I'm not at liberty to say who they were, but you would be disgusted if you knew, and you will know at some point in time. But that is when the campaign shifted gears. So a year ago, last summer, by the way, and Trump stopped traveling on Trump Force One and was traveling on nondescript planes. That happened within 24 hours. Basil Boz, who's a good friend of Doc Pete's and has worked with the CIA for somewhere around 3 decades, also received similar intelligence the same night. So at the end of the day, these guys are all in cahoots to do as much harm as they possibly can to us. And the people who think otherwise, man, they're not right on this. I wish they were. I wish we were wrong more than you can possibly imagine, because I can't even sleep now. I'm sitting here watching cameras 24/7. I go to bed, I can't sleep. It straight from Mike Glover and Khalid, among some other people who should go unnamed. When they want to take somebody out who's spreading truthful information that scuttles their plans or disturbs their plans, like we've been doing, they just send a hit squad in the middle of the night. They storm your home and take you out. So, I mean, I've got a wife and my fur babies. I can't even sleep. I don't sleep at the best of times. I run on very, very little sleep, maybe 4 hours sleep a night max. And now I'm running on short little cat naps because of this. But we're on a mission, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to get the word out to everybody so we can hopefully empower our fellow Americans and friends of America, to survive these very, very dangerous times. So here we go, back to Venezuela. Venezuela African jihadists flooding Europe with cocaine report. Cocaine produced in Venezuela is being shipped to West Africa, which is then trafficking the drug into Europe, according to Wall Street Journal. The drugs are flown out of Venezuela by corrupt military officials and drug gangs to West Africa, where jihadist-linked smugglers move the drug to Europe, according to the Journal. Law enforcement officials told the Journal that Venezuela has become a strategic location with its ineffectual security and long coastline. While the Trump administration has tried to prevent boats carrying drugs from Venezuela from entering the U.S., most of its cocaine is being sent through Europe via West Africa. Once the drugs arrive in Africa, smugglers collaborate with Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups that escort the cargoes north and extort payments from the overland convoys, rebel leaders in Mali told the Journal. So here's the deal. Remember what I just said, that Hezbollah Unit 910, which is outside of the Middle East, is tasked with financing itself. They got involved in fentanyl. They're still involved in fentanyl, which, by the way, just a PSA for y'all, 80% of the fentanyl that's been seized by law enforcement in America since January 1st of this year is laced with xylazine. Xylazine is a horse tranquilizer. It will completely shut your body down. There is no way to reverse the effects, and you die. So even if you have Narcan on hand and you think somebody's a victim of a fentanyl overdose, fentanyl ain't going to do a damn thing against xylazine. But getting back on track here, so Hezbollah has been involved in the fentanyl and drug trade for years to finance themselves. They've been involved in child sex trafficking and human trafficking in general. They are now involved in exporting cocaine from Venezuela and other places in Central America to Africa, which then Al-Qaeda, again, they're all on the same team under the Islamic Army now. They pick it up and run with it. And this is how they're financing their terrorist activity. I mean, it's just, it's not a surprise for anybody who's been paying attention, and to the people who thought it was, appropriate to send us hate mail when we suggested these guys are all working cahoots together. Unfortunately, we're right and you were wrong, and that's that. So for Mario Nawfal on this topic, Europe's cocaine boom runs through Venezuelan jihadist network. And this is a long article. There's a video here of them storming a place. I'm going to just take this link and send it to y'all in the live chat for those who are tracking and want to stay on top of this stuff. I'm not going to read repetitive material. So moving on from there, next one up. Oh, let me pause it here. This is an important one. This is Benny Johnson. So Representative Daryl Issa says the CIA may have provided the Afghan shooter in DC with the weapon used to shoot the 2 National Guardsmen. 2 minutes and 48 seconds. I'm going to play the bulk of this because there is so much shit being slung at the CIA, and deservedly so, with what's going on in the Middle East and elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if we were in the same boat as Iran. So the mullahs don't run Iran. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard does. And as far as I'm concerned, we've had nothing but political theater here in America for many years. And the people who are positing that the CIA is behind it wouldn't surprise me. All right, here we go.
And we know this. He kept to himself in his government-funded housing. He has 5 kids. He has a wife. They didn't speak English. Nobody ever talked to them. He just played FIFA soccer all day, according to reports, and was a brooding, angry, frustrated individual who we trained to kill, and then he ended up killing us on our own soil. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer of a result, very dark one.
No question at all. And after, look, 1991, we learned lessons in the first Gulf War in 1991. We learned lessons again in 2000 with 9/11. But each time we learn these lessons.
Well, so there's a low IQ person here who didn't catch this. Says, let's do the math, your theory. They ship drugs around the world and back twice to kill drug addicts. I didn't say that at all. Clean the shit out of your ears. The precursors to fentanyl that are required to make fentanyl are sent by the CCP to Hezbollah and the cartels in Mexico. They make the fentanyl products. They use fentanyl to step on other drugs. Those drugs come into America. Whereas Venezuela and Colombia, for example, produce a lot of cocaine. That cocaine is handled by Hezbollah, taken to Africa and distributed in Europe, making money there. It's not brought back to the United States. Not hard to track. Next one.
For some reason, some members of either party, but particularly the other party, seem to want to forget them. The story of Osama bin Laden is the story of somebody who was a mastermind trained killer, but that didn't make him your ally.
Yeah.
In World War II, the Russians fought on the same side as we did. no question at all. They were always our enemy. It was just a question of when they would turn on us once Hitler fell. That is the reality of history, and yet we choose to forget it. Today, we have over 10 million people in this country, many of whom came in under the same quality of passport. They just told you who they were. They had no ID. And we called it vetting as we released them to wherever they said they wanted to go and gave them a free ticket to do it. So it's not just the Afghanistan where we have a known killer, somebody who enjoyed killing his fellow Afghans.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I don't know that he was trained by the CIA as much as used by the CIA, because he was already a consummate killer. They may have provided him with an AK-47, but that doesn't mean that we train them. The fact is, when we train officers and non-commissioned officers in foreign militaries, we train them with the rules of war. We train them with laws, and then we see whether or not they lead in a way that is acceptable. No such thing happened here. This is somebody who should not have been let into the country, should have been properly vetted. But Benny, what concerns me today is there are tens or hundreds of thousands of people who could be just as dangerous. Some of them are even more dangerous. They are with us. And unless the president continues his pause on migration, as it's sometimes called, and gets the backlog of this taken care of, we will continue to be at a risk that cannot be mitigated.
I would add for many, many decades. So I got a couple messages here from somebody asking why I went off on that guy, because there's so many shitheads out there that don't pay attention. We had somebody recently wanted to, strike up an argument with us that said that I have firsthand experience and Narcan works just fine for fentanyl. Doesn't work for fentanyl laced with xylazine. Pay attention. Xylazine is a horse tranquilizer. There's no way to reverse its effects. It shuts your body down. You die. So at no point in time did I say drugs were shipped around the world multiple times. Pay attention. Precursors, China to Mexico. Mexico to America for fentanyl products. Cocaine produced in Colombia and Venezuela. Hezbollah involved in the middle of it. Takes it to Africa, hands it off to Al-Qaeda. That is sold in what's being called the cocaine boom in Europe. It is not brought back this way. All right, so let's move on to the next one after that, which is in France. Authorities charged 2 French teens for planning ISIS-linked anti-Semitic terror attack. French authorities charged 2 teens with an ISIS-inspired terror conspiracy after finding messages suggesting a planned anti-Semitic attack. 2 French teenagers, this is December 2nd, today, 2 French teenagers who were radicalized by ISIS terrorists were charged with conspiracy to carry out an anti-Semitic terror attack, French outlet Le Parisien reported on Monday. Authorities claim the teenagers were preparing to carry out a violent attack against Jews and were supporters of ISIS. The outlet also noted the 2 were active in a WhatsApp group used to bring together ISIS supporters and spread terrorist propaganda. Media outlet France Info reported that the 2 minors had been planning an attack on Israeli targets, citing a source close to the investigation. The Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office did not immediately confirm this in its statement. La Parisien, citing information from France's Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office, said that the 2 16-year-olds were charged in Paris on Sunday with criminal conspiracy for terrorist purposes and were detained at the request of the prosecution following 4 days of intensive investigation. Message refers to upcoming attack, shows knife. Investigators noted that the case was opened following the detection of a message that referred to the possibility of an attack within 5 days, accompanied by a picture of a knife. This incident marks the 19th and 20th minors charged with terrorism in France this year. This is a thing, by the way. They're recruiting youngins that they feel Western courts will go easy on because they're not adults. French authorities emphasized to Le Parisien that this jump in arrests indicates a sharp, unprecedented shift toward the recruitment of youth to jihadist activity within the country, accompanied by growing radicalization and more violent intentions. And let's not forget, November of 2015, when Paris was the subject of a CCTA, complex coordinated terrorist attack, just like Mumbai in 2008. Here, let me just go. I'm going to go down a quick rabbit hole here with y'all. So 95+% of Pakistan are Muslims. Pakistan is a nuclear power. However, they have old fission style nuclear warheads, which is what we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. They do not have ICBMs. An ICBM has to travel 3,300 plus miles to be classified as such. They don't even really have MRBMs, medium range, that can carry those type of warheads any significant distance, okay? But France has the nuclear triad. They can deliver thermonuclear warheads anywhere in the world from land, sea, or air. England has 8 nuclear submarines that all have our Trident missiles on them with thermonuclear warheads that can be delivered anywhere in the world. Clearly, the Muslims don't have to have 50% plus one population-wise to take over political offices like they've done. There's the 37 largest cities in England now have a Muslim mayor. So at some point in the not too distant future, France and England will become the first 2 global thermonuclear powers in the entire world. And for those people not paying attention, that's a really scary thing when you have people married to an ideology that it is righteous not just to kill others, but to die in the process. Who the wrong guy gets access to the big red button and poof, we're done. So at some point in time, I honestly believe that we are going to be tasked with liberating Canada, England, and France at the very least. And we're going to have to do it out of self-preservation because we cannot allow these radicals to have thermonuclear warheads. So speaking of nuclear stuff, check this out. American Institute for Science and International Study. Recent months have shown increased activity around the tunnel entrances in Esfahan, the site where, according to many assessments, a significant portion of Iran's stockpile of 60% enriched uranium is stored. And just as we suspected, there was never any doubt that they were going to start rebuilding the minute that our attacks ended. Also, there's a video circulating on X today that claims to show recent released footage of the underground operations exploding from our attacks, the bunker busters. It's AI. It's not real. And I mean, for those of you who are a little bit technical, you don't even have to be that technical. Download the video and go somewhere like AIorNot.com or go to an AI. Go to Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, wherever you want, and drop the video on it and ask it, is this an AI generated video? And it's very good at catching that sort of stuff. Other AIs are very good at catching other AIs because there's certain signature things that they do that humans wouldn't do, and certainly not as consistently as the AIs do. So with that being said, let's move to the next one here from AJ. And for those of you who are, again, new to Survival Dispatch, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but I've been on InfoWars twice now. Breaking video: Pentagon confirms Trump has launched major military action in Somalia, crushing ISIS's attempts to reconstitute a new caliphate. It's a 16-minute video. I'm just going to play the beginning.
Hundreds of U.S. troops into fortified caves in Somalia to kill like 5 guys. And I think it's a good question as to why the U.S. military is still in Somalia.
Thank you for the question. So I can assure you, right, this is an America First Department of War and president. So we aren't conducting forever wars in Somalia. We're not seeking regime change or, we're not nation building. But I will say that.
Hey, if anybody knows where Carolyn Levitt is and why she's not behind the podium, do me a favor and put it in the live chat.
That this department's narrowly scoped, intelligence-driven counterterrorism operations in places like Somalia, alongside our partners, allow us to protect the American homeland from terrorist threats and to protect our interests. So we will continue to make sure that the American people are kept safe. That's our utmost priority. But, we're not isolationists. We're also not neocons. We're realists. We understand that threats face the American people every single day. We take that incredibly seriously. But at the same time, we're always going to make sure that we're putting America first.
And if could some of the money stolen.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop that there. And I just want to quickly address something. There was a troll potentially who was saying some ridiculous things, and I think it was John Curry called the guy out. So he's gone. I come from high tech, for those of you who are not familiar with my background. So I've been in high tech for many, many decades. Now I'm in, call it the media business. And at the end of the day, there are multiple things going on in live chats, comment sections that are AI driven bots that are just meant to get a rise out of people. They're bullshit accounts. They're not real accounts. Then you have, in addition to that, you have some basement dwellers who are getting paid by, George Soros and the others to get in arguments and spread disinformation. I have zero tolerance for clowns like the couple that we've bounced already tonight. You can go pollute other videos. You're not going to pollute my videos. Simple. There's not allowed. Zero tolerance policy. All right. Now this next one up, this guy's an interesting character for those of you who don't know, and you may want to follow him after I share this with you. So it's at Political Base MA on X. This guy is a former Afghani intelligence guy, and he's very, very smart, intelligent. Khalid knows him firsthand. This guy's information is always top shelf. And here we go. The Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, TTP, ETIM, and IMU have converged under Taliban rule in Afghanistan with a single overarching objective to destabilize the region first, expand insecurity beyond it second, and ultimately target the West, particularly the heart of the United States. This guy is all over this shit like a fat kid on a Sonic milkshake. Pay attention to what he says. Since I started following this guy and Khalid put me onto him, there hasn't been one thing that this guy's put out that hasn't been right on the money. So definitely a good resource to follow. All right. Narco terrorists in Venezuela are enemies of the United States, just like Al-Qaeda. There's no difference. None. 56 seconds. Congrats to Rep. Carlos Jimenez holding his own here against this clown Wolf Blitzer. 56 seconds.
I'm confident that the admiral thought he was carrying out his mission, which is questionable.
Why is it questionable to order a strike to kill individuals who are survivors?
These are terrorists. Okay, these are absolute terrorists.
But they're wounded.
I didn't see this kind of scrutiny when the Obama administration was launching drone strikes against terrorist organizations in the Middle East. I mean, that happened all the time. Okay, and so I didn't see this kind of scrutiny about the survivors, et cetera. These are terrorists. They're bringing poison into the United States. They have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And we need to understand that. Killed far more Americans than Al-Qaeda or
so let me just be precise with you,
ever did.
Congressman.
And so I have no problem with the kinetic strikes that are happening in the Caribbean, killing and destroying the drugs that are killing American citizens and have been killing American citizens for years.
Yeah, well done. I just want to bring this comment up from Cowboy Roy Rogers. Chris Evans, China is also shipping ingredients to Canada, Chinese scientists to train the cartels from Mexico. Cartels pay Canadians traffic south. I already mentioned that in this podcast. The labs that are being set up or have been set up in Canada and British Columbia in particular have been producing pharmaceutical grade fentanyl. The stuff that's made in Mexico is very rudimentary. It is one of the reasons that people overdose on it because it's not a really precise dosing. But the stuff coming out of Canada and the Chinese labs in Canada absolutely is. Appreciate you adding that, Cowboy Roy Rogers. But again, we already mentioned that, but it's good information nonetheless. All right, moving on to the next one here. And let me just get this backed up a little bit. Somalis in Minnesota respond to Trump. The Somali community in Minnesota is a backbone of the state. Did y'all catch Ilhan Omar, pardon my French, the brother fucker, say that Somalians are the fabric of America last week? Apologies for the cuss words, but like fuck they are, the furthest possible thing from it. And now here they are spewing more of their crap here. This is 1 minute and 55 seconds. I am not playing 1 minute and 55 seconds of this complete and utter bullshit, but I'll give you enough that you get a taste of it.
Families need the relief. We need leaders who will invest in our neighbors, not attack them. The Somali community in Minnesota is a backbone of the state. We contribute to the economy, we serve our communities, we raise families, and we do it with pride. We move to communities in greater Minnesota that have been decimated by the bad practices of the big corporation interests. And big brings small local business, like here today, multi-generational income, and help with restoration.
Yeah, that's about enough of that. So none of these people are the fabric of America. None of these people are the backbone of America. None of these people built anything here. None of these people have a right to be here. And they need to go back to their own frickin' country one way or another. So as I mentioned at the beginning with Jake Lang being in Tampa, check this out. This event is now confirmed. One of the largest Islamic events of the year is being hosted in Tampa Bay and will be 3 days long. Prominent Muslim speakers from all over the country will be there to strengthen Islam in Florida and America. Florida, are you going to allow this? Multiple people in that promotional poster right there are on record multiple times encouraging jihadis, radicalization, and taking out America and Americans. Minute and 33 seconds. This is another one. I'm going to play enough for you to get the flavor of it, and that's about it.
Get ready for one of the largest Islamic events happening the entire year. The AIM Authentic Ilm Mission Conference, happening right here for the first time ever in Tampa Bay. This is happening in collaboration with the Dean Center in Valrico and Tampa's local da'wah organization, the Sunnah Initiative. This is going to be a 3-day mega event full of lectures, reminders, games, prizes, activities, a vendor bazaar, and much, much more. This year's theme is titled Gratitude as Worship, reading Surah Al-Nahl in an age of forgetfulness.
Yeah, that's the end of that. I'm not going to listen to that anymore. So this invasion that we've seen plague Europe, France, and England, I have been preaching for well over a few years now on this podcast. You have to pay attention to what's happening in other Western countries because it's a harbinger of things to come here. We know what their playbook is, right? We know that somebody said, nice dress, dude. Yeah, I second that one. We know that their playbook's pretty simple, right? Massive immigration, invasion through immigration, start getting voted into office, start radicalizing people, start saying that you got to change things because, we need to suit them. This is America. This is the melting pot. You either fit in or poof, gone. You don't deserve to be here. We are going to have to be as politically incorrect as possible to save our country and our culture from this crap. Nothing good is on the horizon. I'll leave it at that. Oops, let me get the next guy up here. Sometimes it'd be good to have a producer. Sometimes maybe not, but either way. All right, let's check this one out here. Apologies for the little mishap there. After 5 years of hunting Hamza, today I present to you the first visual proof of Hamza bin Laden since 2011, leading the Al-Qaeda alive and well from Afghanistan in 2025. This is the one I referred to earlier. This is not a legitimate video. This is some footage from 7 years ago. So make sure you double check with trustworthy sites and people before you buy into this crap. Both Khalid and Sarah immediately pointed this out as recognizable from 7 years ago, and it's just not true. All right, next one up. Those who supported ISIS in countries around the world were Qatar, Turkey, and the Muslim Brotherhood. So Tommy Robinson and I, we've been in touch for a few years now, other than when he was put in prison unjustly. And again, he is laying out all of the things that have been happening in Great Britain. It is a perfect crystal ball of what they're fixing to do here. I personally don't believe that Europe can turn around on their own without our direct intervention. 51 seconds.
Fuck Qatar. Do you want me to tell you the insanity of Great Britain, the insanity of London? There's a hostile nation called Qatar, a nation that gives home to Hamas's leadership, a nation that has spent nearly £1 billion funding extremist organizations across Europe, a nation that funds terrorism, blatantly funds terrorism. American CIA investigations have shown it, yeah? Funds terrorism, a nation whose royal families are pro-jihad and pro-extremism. And our government and our country allow them to buy our capital city. They set up in our capital city. They make profit and money in our capital city whilst funding the destruction of our country and our capital city. If you walk into Harrods to buy clothes, you are funding a country that is funding the destruction of our country. There should be no Qatari money in Great Britain. There should be no Qatari money in Europe.
Not surprising at all. So pretty much all of these Muslim countries, and let me get the studio view fixed up here. There we go. Have one thing absolutely in common. They will smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. Oh, we don't support the jihadis, you know, but as soon as they get to a tipping point where they start getting some power in a country, the gloves are off and they reveal what their true selves are. So with that being said, we're at my favorite part of the podcast. That's the end of the main topic. And I'll just suffice it to say that the jihadis and the sleeper cells are being activated. They're getting bolder. They're getting bigger and stronger. And there's absolutely nothing to show that the threat to us is being mitigated whatsoever. So with that being said, favorite part of the night, 3, 2, 1. It is time for the Carnival Hero of the Day. And this is a good one here. True hero moment. This dog saw his human jump in the water, thinking he had fell in and didn't hesitate straight in to save him. Man's best friend for a reason. I've got my fur babies are right down here. I swear to God, my wife and I say this frequently. We like most dogs better than most humans. 30 seconds.
Past lives could never hold me down, lost love, sweeter when it's finally found. I got this feeling, this isn't our first time around. Past lives could never come between us. Sometime the fears finally wake up. Don't wake me, I'm not dreaming.
That is a good dog. Even though the guy wasn't in danger, I thought it was cool enough that it deserved to be the hero of the day. I do not have a reader submitted story of the day for tonight. I couldn't find one that wasn't already covered in the brief that stood out to me, but tomorrow night we'll probably resume that. But before then, we're going to do the conflicted question right here. So Sebastian came upon 2 orphans who were angry at the world and defenseless. He felt like it was his duty to take care of them. The young kids were having a hard time trusting him. If you were in Sebastian's place, would you take it upon yourself to take care of orphans? If so, how would you gain their trust? Well, again, these are all scenarios that are set in post-apocalyptic settings. So in this particular case, you can assume that the children had no family, nobody to look after them whatsoever. So the right thing to do would be either to try and care for them or find somebody else to care for them. But I'll put a little bit of an asterisk there to say if they turned out to be assholes, then I don't know that I would have the tolerance myself to do it. I would initially try to help, but if they turned out to be dickheads, and there's a guy who invented this thing called the DISC test. I'm not going to get deep into it, but it's for analyzing your behavior. And you have what's called natural behavior that's hard-coded into your DNA, and you have what's called adaptive behavior, which is you being a product of your environment. And his studies, his science basically said 70% of your behavior is from DNA. So that would explain why you can have adopted children whose parents were not good people, who are raised in a very good adoptive home and turn out to be complete assholes. You don't get to choose your parents, right? So again, I think the Christian thing to do, right thing to do would be to initially care for them. If they turned out to be not the best, then I would pawn them off on somebody else, to be quite frank, because there's certain things that you just can't undo. So with that being said, we will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, usual time, Randy, Jeff, and I, for the next episode in our long war series. And tomorrow night, we're specifically going to be discussing the European collapse. I mean, they're literally unraveling in every way you can possibly imagine. Before I do that, I want to thank all of our paying Guardian members. So for $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, which gets you 2.5 months for free, you get access to 6 of our super busy, high quality intel and information signal channels. Why do we use Signal as opposed to a platform? Because we can't be censored and we can't be kicked off of it. That's why. So I come from high tech. I'm used to, rejigging stuff for purposes that maybe it wasn't originally intended to. The main chat, the Guardians chat, gets 12,000 messages per week. We have our SDENS channel on there, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. The National Emergency Broadcast System went down last week. For us, when we send emergency notifications, they go to the Signal channel, they go to your email, they go to our Substack, they go to your POClink radios if you have them. If you haven't got your POClink radios in the right group yet, email support@poclink.com. We don't sell hardware. This isn't our hardware. They do all of the support, and they do a great job of it. They're very responsive. Support@poclink.com, and get in on the SDN stuff there. But we have other stuff going on. There's early access, behind the scenes content. You get direct access to the Survival Dispatch team. You get to converse with John and the team on his ThreatWire security bulletins, amongst other security bulletins. And you get a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with it as well, which I won't bore you with right at this particular moment. So I want to thank all of our Guardians. I want to thank our premier sponsor, Carnivalt, carnivalt.com. This is 100% American beef, chicken, and pork, grass finished, not just grass fed. Grass fed means the last few weeks they pork them up on grain and they end up with all the ill effects that they would have had otherwise. It's bullshit. You want grass finished, number one. These are American ranchers. The bag and the O2 absorbers are made in America. These guys are hardcore Americans. That bag right there is 6 ounces of freeze-dried top sirloin with a shelf life of 25 years, reconstitutes in 5 to 10 minutes. Pro tip, put a bit of salt in with the water, the bouillon, whatever you reconstitute it with. It will suck the flavor up right through the middle. By the way, I throw it in the air fryer for 4 minutes, and I've got perfect medium rare steak. You don't need refrigeration. So it lasts for 25 years. So if the grid goes down, whether it be a hurricane, a cyber attack, 9/11 2.0, you don't have to worry about your stuff going down with it. And again, you're supporting a very, very American and altruistic company. And here's the deal. If you go to carnivalt.com and you buy something over $99, send that receipt to support@survivaldispatch.com. If you have a Guardian membership, I will tack an extra month on every time you spend $99 or more on Carnivalt. So theoretically, you could end up with a free membership for life. We just did a big deal where we were giving away 3 months for a Black Friday special. That's not the regular special. The regular special is buy from carnivalt.com, use the code EATMEAT, get 10% off unless it's a subscription. The subscriptions already have the discount applied to them. Forward the receipt to support@survivaldispatch.com, and I'll keep tacking 30 days on each month when you get your subscription or when you spend more than $99. It's a hell of a deal. I can tell you that we had 155 people take advantage of that for the Black Friday, the Carnivalt/Survival Dispatch deal. So it's a great way to help support the channel, because these guys, we don't get affiliate money from these guys, by the way. I just want you to know, whether you buy from them or not doesn't dictate what we get paid. We get a generous monthly stipend. I spend $4,700 a month on software subscriptions, $4,000 a month on ClearStar to do background checks before we let people into our community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Carnivalt.com, code EATMEAT, all one word, 10% off. Between tonight and tomorrow night, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless America, and enjoy the closing video.
We are going to say Merry Christmas again.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Kiss my ass. Bah, humbug. Kiss his ass.
Ready? The 2 words are Merry Christmas. She doesn't want anybody saying Merry Christmas.
How dare we?
How dare you?
Have a Merry Christmas. This is a holy season, the celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct. You go to department stores and they'll say Happy New Year, they'll say other things, and it'll be red, they'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again.
Oh my God!
Merry Christmas.
And when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas.
how dare we?
Merry Christmas.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas.
And let me begin by wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, remember?
And when we all sing happy tunes and sing Merry Christmas and wish each other Merry Christmas,
I just wanted to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas. We say Christmas again very proudly. Very, very Merry Christmas. You're going to have a great year. It's going to be an incredible year.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, George! They've been downplaying that little beautiful phrase. You're going to be saying Merry Christmas again, folks.